I used hypnobirthing technique during my entire labor, and this has changed everything for me. My delivery was quick, it was easy, I was able to enjoy a natural, unmedicated birth and have the incredible experience of feeling my baby being born. I was super present at every moment. I was hyper focused on everything that was happening. I felt connected to my baby, and like my mind, my body and my baby were completely in sync. I felt completely in control. I felt in control of my muscles. I felt in control of my breathing, and most importantly, I felt completely in control of the pain. I felt strong and magnificent, and I could feel all the beauty and the power of being a woman and giving birth to a child. And I really feel like using hypnobirthing technique is what has helped me live this magical experience. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Soraya, I'm a mother of two, and here on this channel I speak my truth about motherhood. In today's video, I want to share my experience using hypnobirthing technique to deliver my second baby, as well as share with you some very powerful tips and technique to tackle any anxieties that you may have about labor, as well as manage the pain during labor. And the reason why I'm making this video now, even though my last baby was born over a year ago, is because these are unusually stressful times to deliver a baby. I have several friends who have either just delivered their baby or are pregnant and very close to their due date, and so I know that in many places around the world there's still a fairly strict lockdown, and many women are having to give birth in a very stressful environment, and sometimes without a birth partner being present. And so this is incredibly difficult for expecting mothers, and so I feel that many of these tips and techniques that I have used during my labor will be incredibly helpful, and that's why I've decided to share them now. So first, let's talk about what hypnobirthing actually is. Hypnobirthing is a technique that helps you increase your pain threshold, as well as remain in control of your emotions during labor, so that you can remain as calm as possible and so that your delivery can go as smoothly as possible. So hypnobirthing really helps you reduce any fear or anxiety that you may have, so that your mind works not against your body but with your body to help relax your muscle and open up the way so that baby can make her way out as easily, quickly and smoothly as possible. And here I feel like I should tell you a little bit more about myself and why I was interested in hypnobirthing in the first place. See, I delivered my first baby in France, and although I was really blessed with a smooth delivery with no complications for myself or for my baby, I was a little bit disappointed that I ended up having to use an epidural, and also the epidural had many very uncomfortable side effects for me. And so I knew that for my second pregnancy and delivery, I really wanted to try as much as possible to have an unmedicated natural birth. The other thing is that while I was pregnant with my second child, I had a lot of anxiety for many reasons. And the truth is, there are so many very valid reasons why expectant mothers might have a lot of anxiety about giving birth, whether it's because they've had a complicated delivery before and they are worried that some of these complications might happen again, or because they are worried about how they can handle the labor pain, or because they are worried about having a newborn baby if they are first-time moms. And because delivering a baby has so much to do with instinct and with the most primal part of your brain, if you feel scared or unsafe, or if you have so much anxiety, then your mind will work against your body and your muscles will tighten, making it more difficult for a baby to make her way out, which in turn will make the labor slower and more painful. And of course, sometimes there are things that might be out of our control, and there might be some situations where a medical intervention is necessary no matter what. But other than that, preparing for your labor and use some very effective pain management and relaxation technique, as well as tackling your anxieties before you get into labor, will really help help the process go faster and more smooth, and also will very much change the way you experience your own delivery. So as you can see, I've come back home, and that's because the park was becoming so busy and crowded, and I was concerned that there was too much background noise that would be distracting. So now I'm really going to get into the heart of the subject, and I'm going to share with you some really helpful tips and exercises that you can do in preparation for labor as well as during labor to both tackle your anxieties and any fears that you may have, as well as to manage the pain during the labor, even if you're on your own and you don't have a birth partner with you. So let's start with the first exercise, and this is an exercise that is designed to help you tackle any fear or anxiety that you may have by making you aware of all of the resources that you have within you as well as around you. So the first thing that you want to do is take a big piece of paper and a pen and make a list of all of the things that actually make you feel stressed or worried about giving birth. So it may be things like, we haven't picked out a name for the baby yet, the baby's room isn't ready, I'm worried about giving birth during a pandemic, I'm worried about giving birth without a birth partner. It may be something like, I am worried about needing an emergency C-section, I am scared of labor pain. Anything that makes you feel scared or worried or stressed about delivery, you need to write down on that list. So now that you're done making that first list, you're going to take a second piece of paper, and on this new piece of paper, you're going to write all of your needs. So what do you need in order for your delivery and your labor to go well and to go as smoothly as possible and to go the way you want it to go? Now that you're done making that second list, you're going to take a third piece of paper, and now on this third piece of paper, you're going to write all of your resources. Let's start by identifying all of the resources that you already have. So now I want you to pause for a second and think about all the things that you already have and write them down. So it could be something like, I have given birth before, I know what it's like, and I know that I can do this. It could be something like, I trust my body. It could be something like, the pregnancy has gone well and I feel in relatively good shape. It could be something like, I know breathing techniques. So now that you've made a list of all the resources that you already have, you're going to pick a different color and write down a list of all the resources that you can easily acquire in the next couple of weeks and months. And that will help you during your labor. So it could be things like, I can watch YouTube video to learn breathing techniques and relaxation techniques. I can go and visit the maternity unit so that I am more familiar with the environment in which I will be while I'm in labor. It could be maybe I can also take this opportunity to meet some of the staff in the unit so that I feel more confident and so that I know that I will be in good hands. Anything that you can do to prepare for your labor in the next couple of weeks and months. And make sure that when you make this list, you keep looking at the two previous lists to see what are the things that scare you and what are your needs, so that you can try and find a solution and a resource for each one of those needs that you had mentioned before. So for example, if you're really scared of needing a C-section, then maybe a solution will be to find out more about C-sections and what happens during a C-sections, and maybe watch some YouTube videos of moms who've had C-sections to find out about their experiences, so that you can feel a little bit reassured about what happens in those situations. And of course, once you're done making all these lists and thinking about all of the resources and action points that you can make in the next couple of weeks to ensure you're ready for your labor, you can go ahead and start, taking care of your needs basically, and going through each one of these action points. This exercise is incredibly helpful because it will help you identify the things that actually scare you and that actually give you anxiety, identify what you need in order to feel ready for your labor, identify what resources you already have, and identify action points. What are the resources that you can get and acquire in the next couple of weeks before your due date in order to feel prepared for labor, and what do you need to do in order to acquire these resources? So now I'm going to move on to the second tip, which is equally as important, and which is how to manage the pain during labor, how to handle this dreadful contraction pain. And so here there are two ways that you can go about it. The first one is through visualization, and it's to picture yourself basically in a really calm, quiet place. It may be by the beach, it may be, in a really calm, quiet forest, or a place that to you feels very peaceful and relaxing. And so this is an exercise that will basically help you detach your mind from your body so that you can escape the pain, if you will, and find yourself in this more peaceful, relaxed place. So it's a technique that works for a lot of people, but it didn't work so well for me because I found it really hard to really be relaxed enough to go into that place in my mind while I'm going through really intense contraction pain. So I'm going to tell you about the second technique, which is also a lot easier to implement if you're on your own and when you don't have somebody next to you to guide you towards that place of relaxation that I was talking about earlier. And so this technique is a technique that will help you change your perception of pain and increase your pain threshold. So what hypnobirthing has really taught me is to see pain as something that is relative and something that is very much linked to my own perception of it. So for example, if you look at athletes or soldiers, their body is very resilient to pain and to fatigue, but that's not because they are born this way. That's because they have pushed their limits and they have trained to have a higher pain threshold. And so it's really a state of mind. You see, if you enter the ring already feeling defeated and scared and like you can't do this, then of course you're going to be on your knees after the first punch. But if you enter the ring feeling like, bring it on, I can do this, then you will be able to withstand the punch and keep going. And so it's very much the same with pain. So the first element to gaining control over the pain is to stop fearing the pain. And to stop fearing the pain, you need to dissociate contractions from pain. And here there's something really interesting to think about. See, you go through on average 4 contractions a day from the moment you are 4 months pregnant. But most of these contractions, you can't even feel them because they are so mild and so soft and gentle on your body.
And of course, as well, the intensity of contraction increases as the labor progresses. So even during labor, during the first stage of labor, the contractions may be much more mild, while during the second stage of labor, they become really intense until they really reach their peak right before the baby comes out. So now if we look at contractions like a little wave, and I'm making here a little drawing, and I'm going to draw 3 lines. The line in green represents the point where we can actually feel the contraction. So any contraction below that you can't even feel. The line in purple represents the point when the contraction actually becomes uncomfortable. And the line in red is when the contraction actually feels painful. So as you can see, you can have some contractions that are so small that you don't even feel them, then contractions that you can feel but they don't bother you at all, contractions that start to be uncomfortable, a little bit uncomfortable, then very uncomfortable, all the way until you finally reach that pain threshold.
And so for me, realizing that a contraction is not necessarily painful made a huge difference, because then when my labor contraction started, I actually took a second to step back and think, wait, is this painful or is this just really uncomfortable at this stage? Because the intensity of contractions increase as you progress through your labor, but there's a really long time when you're not yet in the active stages of labor, and so the contractions aren't the most intense contractions yet. So at this stage you can really step back and be like, wait, is that painful or is that just very uncomfortable? And it makes a big difference because the way you name it and define it makes a difference in the way you experience it. Let's talk about those really big, intense contractions, the one that you get closer to the second stage of your labor and during the second stage of your labor. So there's no denying that these are incredibly painful. Of course, no matter how high your pain threshold is, you will feel the pain, and that's because labor contractions are some of the most intense pain that the human body will ever feel. So it is painful, but how can we handle this pain and how can we shift our perception of this pain so that it's more manageable? I'll tell you how. So when I was giving birth to my first baby, the labor lasted 18 hours, and from the very first contraction at the very beginning of these 18 hours, my contractions were very regular and very close together. And so it wasn't like slowly increasing, it was straight away. Every 2 minutes I had a contraction from the beginning. And so it lasted for 18 hours. And during these 18 hours, every time a contraction ended, I lived in fear and apprehension of the next contraction. Between each contraction, I would just be like, oh my God, no, please, oh my God, no, please, oh my God, because it was so painful and I was dreading the pain and I was dreading enduring another contraction. But what I did differently during my second labor, which is something that I learned from hypnobirthing technique, is to, instead of seeing the contraction as the enemy and instead of dreading the pain, I started seeing the contraction as feeling my body opening up so that my baby could make his way out, so that I could finally hold my baby in my arms. And so instead of dreading the next contraction and fearing the next contraction, I would be encouraging it to come, because each contraction was a step closer to my baby and to holding my baby in my arms. And so this makes a massive difference, because your mind is working with your body to help your baby come out. Something else that really helps is to actually visualize your pain and give it a color and a shape. So mine was an orange circle. So every time I was going through this contraction, I would close my eyes and I would visualize this orange circle, and I would see it becoming wider and wider with each contraction, and I would keep repeating to myself, open up, let's widen the circle, let's open your body so that your baby has the space that it needs to come out, and each contraction is a step closer to holding my baby in my arms. And in fact, just to tell you how powerful this technique is, I was managing the pain so well that no one around me, whether it's the midwife, my mom, or my husband, realized how quickly my labor was progressing. I arrived at the hospital at 2:30 in the morning, and the midwife examined me and she found that I was only 2.5 centimeters dilated, which is at this point not even active labor yet. And so she even wanted to send me home because she felt like I was so far from delivering. And in reality, my son was out about 2 hours later, a little over 2 hours later. My son was out into the world. So my delivery progressed really quickly, and I'm so glad that I didn't go back home. Otherwise, I would have given birth on my kitchen floor. But yeah, once I had delivered, the midwife actually came to me and apologized to me, because normally as soon as the mom enters the active stage of labor, the midwife would stay in the room with her to support her, to help her with pain management. But to be honest, even when the midwife came and apologized to me, I really wasn't annoyed with her in any way, because I hadn't needed her. I hadn't needed anyone. In fact, I hadn't even needed my husband or my mother, because all I needed was myself, because I felt so empowered and so confident that I could do this. And I was so hyper focused on everything that I was going through and focused on my contractions. And I was really so focused on supporting my body to open up, to lead the way for my baby to come out. So if you're interested in hypnobirthing, there's actually a really good MP3 recording that I highly recommend and that I have found extremely useful, and I will put the link in the description box below. The recording costs 17 Australian dollars. So it may seem like it's a lot just for an MP3 recording, but the recording is about an hour long. And if you think about it in terms of like, this would probably replace hypnobirthing classes or a doula, which would cost a lot more. So if you're on a budget but you still want to have this experience of using hypnobirth, then this is a really good alternative and I highly recommend it. That's it for today. I really hope that this video has given you more trust in your and your body's ability to give birth naturally and without the help of medication or an epidural or anything like that. And if you have enjoyed today's content, please give this video a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell so that you never miss one of my videos. And I hope you have a truly amazing day.